Hey, today we're going to be working on changing the behavior of the first person projectile based on what physical material it hits. And so the most important thing we'll do in the tutorial is we'll go into first person projectile, we'll click on collision component, and under collision here we're going to tick return material on move. Now, if you missed that, then nothing will work and you'll have no idea why. So we'll start by creating a couple of physical materials. I'm just going to put them in a new folder called materials. And confusingly, they're under the physics option, not under materials, which is where I always look for them. Here you go, physical material, and I'm going to call it physmat_concrete. And we'll just go in and we'll, I guess, leave most of these the same. This'll do for us now. And we'll need another one to compare it with. So let's go and create physmat wood. Now we'll change these boxes here to have those physical materials. So if we go over to the right and type in wood, I'll just use pine for now. You really need to have ticked starter content when you created your tutorial project back in your launcher. If you didn't do that, then you won't have that material there. So we'll make that one out of pine, and we'll just double click here and you'll find the materials editor. We're not worried about most of this yet, but over here we can change the physical material of anything that's pine, and we'll change it to wood and save it. And I wonder if it comes with concrete. I don't remember if it does. Yeah, it comes with some concrete. Let's do some poured concrete. And obviously we'll change that to concrete. Okay, so back in our first person projectile blueprint, let's go to our event graph, and here in our decide whether to penetrate, we're going to need more room than that soon. Let's just go and let's, for starters, we'll just print a string. And that string will be the physical material. We'll drag out a getObjectName node. I like my strings to hang around for about 20 seconds, so we'll change that. Compile, save, and let's see if that worked. There you go, concrete and wood, as well as all the other bounces. So you're probably already halfway there. The next thing we've got to do is match that string up with something else. What I'm going to do is use the Unreal Engine's data structure system. And I'll create a new folder again called data structures. You could also, for example, use the surfaces system, which is what is used for changing the sound of footsteps or the decals from bullets, etc. But that is limited to 62 different surfaces. and it would also require maybe quite a large table or amount of data and blueprints, whereas what I'm about to do will just have a CSV file, a comma separated value file. So let's see if I can remember where to find the data structure. Maybe we'll go add new. Do we get a search box? No. We want MISC. We don't want a data table. Here we go. Blueprint structure. And we'll call this penetration data. And we have to fill out the types of data that I'll have. So I'll just pause the recording and come back when I'm done. Okay, so if you just fill out these variables here, don't worry so much about what these last four are, we'll get to that. The top one is just the amount of energy we'll take out of the projectile as it passes through an object. So we'll just close that. And what we need next is a comma separated value file. And you can create that in your favorite spreadsheet program like Excel or Google Docs. But my favorite is Notepad. And the most important thing to notice here is that the first line starts with a comma. This is just an oddity of how Unreal handles the CSV file. Make sure you type the strings in exactly as you did in the data structure, and then you start with the name of your physical material and continue on with the values that will become our variables. I just made these ones up. I'm not sure what the real world variables will be, so maybe if you want to do that research on your own, that'd be nice. And we'll just go to save that, and we'll call it penetration data.csv. And just navigate to the project folder. And where does it go? Data structures. And save it there. Now that was a problem because we named it the same thing. Okay, let's go find that file and name it something different. I'll just call it data.csv. Data will do. Now let's see what it does. It doesn't seem to import it itself. Let's get to the tutorial again. Let's import it as a data table. And that's the one we made, which is just down there now. Click OK, and up it comes. That all looks good. So now we should be able to test the disparate parts of our system. We'll go into FirstPersonProjectile. And in the GetNewSpeed function, I had this to do change multiplier based on the material. Well, I know the material now, so I'll just make those changes. Okay, I'm just going to move all of this over to the right a bit. And the node we want is called something to do with data table, get data table array. We change that to the only data table we have. and we'll get the row name from our physical materials get object name. Unreal should just pop up a little node for you there, and we'll take our out row and we'll break it apart. And I think I might here use a local variable. We'll just get one called joules per centimeter, I guess. It'll be a float. We'll have a default value of, say, 30,000, I guess. Won't compile at the moment, of course. So if the row is found, we can set joules per centimeter to this value and continue on. And if it's not found, we'll just skip that set. Now if we just connect up this node, we can take out that to-do and it's all done. Compile and it plays nicely with us. Now let's see if that has an effect. We'll want the same amount of each item really, so I'm just gonna delete that one now and change that one to concrete. It was poured that we have. Make sure it gets the same material that you used before. Let's see what happens. Not much effect at all there because the numbers are a little small at the moment. Let's embiggen them. I'll have to find where I've put them in the project folder again. Might be worth making a shortcut. Let's just open that in Notepad. So before we had 30,000. And let's make that 3,000. Guess we don't really need 0.0. And Unreal's pretty good about checking everything because it already knows what's happened. Okay, let's give it another go. There you go. Okay, so the next step is to come up with some sort of system to decide whether the projectile should penetrate based on the angle of impact and the velocity of impact. So you can do whatever you'd like here, but what I've done is a sort of two variable equation. Just each graph here is just the old linear equation y equals mx plus c. And so you can see here the impact angle of the different materials and the chance of penetration that it might have. And I just made these values up, so it'd be nice if someone could point me to a resource with such detailed data, but I'm not sure one is easily available. And here's the velocity as well. And to get my final chance of penetration, I'll just clamp the first graph and multiply it by a clamped second graph. And so if you remember, m is the gradient and c is the y-intercept, or in this example, the z-intercept. And so this corresponds to the values we've put in our table here. So here's a gradient, and here's a z-intercept. So back into our tutorial. The first thing we'll need to do is actually create a angle between vectors function. Surprisingly, Unreal doesn't come with this. So we'll just go angle between vectors, and it ends in D for degrees. And it's a pure function with 2 vector inputs. And it will be a float for the angle output. So I'll just complete that, and you can come copy it. Okay, so there's our angle between vectors function. That's just a vector.product node and an arccos degrees node. Make sure you get degrees and not radians. So back to our event graph. I'll probably use, probably make another function to go here. Call it DecideWhetherToPenetrate. And it's going to need the hit result and the impact velocity. And we'll output the result. Okay, we'll start by breaking this apart. And much the same as we did before, we'll get the data table, our inlay data table, and take the object name, and plug it in here. Now we'll grab the impact normal and we'll multiply it by a float, -1. And we'll get the angle between, using our fancy new angle between vectors function, we'll get the angle between the negative impact normal and the impact velocity. And so that'll be 0 degrees if it's completely perpendicular, and just under 90 degrees if it's more or less parallel. And the other thing we'll need to compute this is just the velocity that you get from vector length. Okay. So we'll do two functions of the 2 linear functions. Start with float times float. So y equals mx plus c, where this is m, that's x, and we'll add this is c. And then we clamp it between 0 and 1, and then we'll multiply it by the result of the other function. So we can copy all this. Here's m, that's x, and c. And the output there will be a number between 0 and 1, which will be our chance of penetration. So let's just get a random float in range 0 to 1. And if that random float is larger, do we want larger or smaller? We want larger. No, we want smaller. If that random float is smaller, or just to not cross our little lines there, if the chance of penetration is larger than a random float, then it does penetrate. Well, that's all going to work nice if a row is found. Let's just to handle if a row is not found. So we'll copy that too. We'll connect up half of these nodes here. Sorry, that's the one we don't want. We want to connect up these nodes and just put in a default value. So we'll grab our default values for concrete, for example. I have to find them. I need that shortcut. Okay, so I'm going to use minus 0.0222. That is for velocity. No, that's for angle. .3333 and 0.0125 minus 1.25. Connect up the execution path, compile it, and let's just pop all that code into our event graph. We'll change this because we know this part works now. That could probably be a pure function. It doesn't modify the values at all. There we go. Take out our old default values there. And I think that should be all working. Let's see how we go. Looks good. Congratulations. I'll see you next time.